Most gardeners spend hours babying fussy vegetables that demand constant watering, weeding, and worry. But what if your garden could practically feed itself? After 3 decades of growing food, I've learned that the toughest, most productive plants are often the ones nobody talks about. Today I'm sharing 30 forgotten vegetables that grow like weeds, turning neglected corners into effortless harvest. Stick around for number 26, a sweet surprise from South America, plus a bonus tip that changes everything. The first forgotten vegetable on our list is the Jerusalem artichoke, also called the sunchoke. Hardy in zones 3 through 9, this perennial sunflower relative produces knobby tubers underground that multiply year after year with almost no input from you. Plant a few tubers in spring, and by autumn you'll have pounds of crisp nutty roots to dig. The variety called Stampede matures early and yields heavily even in short seasons. What makes sunchokes perfect for the lazy gardener is their aggressive nature. Leave a single tuber behind at harvest, and it sprouts right back the following spring. Some gardeners even complain they spread too enthusiastically, which tells you just how little effort these plants require. Give them a sunny spot, stand back, and let them do their thing. The second plant worth your attention is Good King Henry, an ancient leafy green that most modern gardeners have never heard of. Thriving in zones 4 through 8, this heirloom pot herb was a kitchen staple across Europe for centuries before spinach took over. Its arrow-shaped leaves taste similar to spinach and can be harvested repeatedly from spring through fall. The plant is closely related to wild goosefoots, which means it's built to survive neglect, poor soil, and competition from actual weeds. You won't find fancy cultivars because the common heirloom strain does everything you need. Once established, Good King Henry returns reliably every year, asks for nothing, and never bolts in summer heat. If you've ever wished spinach would just take care of itself, this forgotten green is your answer. The third vegetable that deserves a spot in every low-maintenance garden is sorrel. This cold-hardy perennial grows in zones 3 through 9 and pushes up bright green leaves before most other crops have even woken up in spring. French sorrel is the variety to seek out, offering broad, tangy leaves with a refreshing lemony zing that livens up salads, soups, and sauces. Sorrel shrugs off poor soil, laughs at late frosts, and keeps regrowing after you cut it back. You can harvest from the same clump for years without replanting. The plant does send up flower stalks eventually, but simply snip them off, and more tender leaves follow. For gardeners who want fresh greens with almost zero fuss, sorrel delivers month after month, season after season. Now, if you're finding this video helpful so far, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps this video reach more gardeners like yourself who would also find this information helpful. Alright, let's continue. The fourth forgotten vegetable is the Egyptian walking onion, a truly bulletproof perennial that thrives in zones 3 through 10. Unlike regular onions that you plant and harvest once, this remarkable allium comes back year after year, forming expanding clumps of mild, usable bulbs at the base. But here's where it gets interesting. Instead of flowers, it produces clusters of small bulbils at the top of its stalks. As those stalks bend under the weight, the bulbils touch the soil and root themselves, causing the onion to slowly walk across your garden. The red Egyptian strain is particularly vigorous and flavorful. Once you plant a small patch, you'll never buy scallions again. Pull what you need, leave the rest, and watch the colony quietly expand. This is the ultimate set and forget allium for gardeners who want onion flavor without annual replanting. The fifth plant that belongs in every effortless garden is garlic chives. Hardy in zones 3 through 9. This tough perennial herb forms dense clumps of flat, garlicky leaves that return reliably every spring. Unlike regular chives, garlic chives deliver that savory garlic punch without any of the work of planting and harvesting bulbs. The standard Allium tuberosum species needs no special cultivar selection because it performs beautifully on its own. Cut the leaves repeatedly throughout the growing season and they just keep coming back. In late summer, pretty white flower clusters appear, attracting pollinators and adding beauty to the vegetable patch. Let a few flowers go to seed and you'll find new plants popping up nearby the following year. Between the spreading rhizomes and enthusiastic self-seeding, one small start can supply a lifetime of garlicky greens. The sixth vegetable on our list is perennial arugula, sometimes called wild rocket. If you've grown regular arugula, you know it bolts and turns bitter the moment summer heat arrives. Perennial arugula solves that problem completely. The variety called Sylvetta is a deep-rooted, drought-tolerant plant that survives in zones 5 through 9 and keeps producing spicy salad leaves long after annual arugula has given up. The flavor is more intense and peppery than its annual cousin, which means a little goes a long way in salads and sandwiches. Because it self-seeds freely and regrows from its roots, you plant it once and harvest for years. Give it decent drainage and moderate sun, and this tough little green will outlast nearly everything else in your salad garden. It's the peppery kick that never quits. The seventh forgotten vegetable might surprise you because most people consider it a nuisance. Stinging nettle, hardy in zones 3 through 10, is one of the most nutritious greens you can grow. Yet gardeners spend years trying to eradicate it. The standard Urtica dioica species needs no cultivar because wild nettle is already perfectly adapted to thrive anywhere. Young spring shoots, harvested with gloves and cooked briefly, lose their sting completely and deliver a rich, spinach-like flavor packed with iron, calcium, and protein. Once you designate a corner for nettle, it spreads by rhizomes and returns every year without any help. You can cut it back multiple times per season, and it just keeps sending up fresh growth. Instead of fighting this so-called weed, smart gardeners give it a permanent home and enjoy free, nutrient-dense harvests for decades. The eighth plant every low-maintenance gardener should know is miner's lettuce, also called claytonia. This charming little salad green thrives in shade and cool conditions, carpeting beds with round, lily-pad-shaped leaves that are tender, mild, and ready to eat. In zones 6 through 9, it behaves as a perennial, while in colder areas it returns faithfully through heavy self-seeding. The standard Claytonia perfoliata strain is all you need. What makes miner's lettuce perfect for lazy gardeners is its timing. It produces abundantly in late winter and early spring when little else is available, then quietly drops seeds and disappears during summer heat. Those seeds sprout on their own the following fall or spring, continuing the cycle without any replanting. If you have a shady, moist corner where nothing else wants to grow, miner's lettuce will turn it into a salad factory. The ninth vegetable on our list is lamb's quarters, and chances are it's already growing in your garden, whether you planted it or not. This common wild plant, hardy in zones 3 through 9, shows up in disturbed soil across North America and produces tender leaves that taste remarkably like spinach. The wild-type Chenopodium album needs no cultivar because nature has already perfected it. Young leaves and growing tips are mild and delicious raw in salads, while larger leaves cook down beautifully like any other green. What makes lamb's quarters the ultimate lazy gardener's crop is that you literally never have to plant it. Once you recognize it and stop pulling it out, you'll have more free food than you know what to do with. The plant self sows so aggressively that your only job is harvesting. Learn to identify those dusty, diamond-shaped leaves, and you'll never look at garden weeds the same way again. The 10th forgotten vegetable is purslane, a succulent little plant that most gardeners treat as their worst enemy. Hardy in zones 3 through 10, this heat-loving ground hugger thrives in the hottest, driest conditions summer can deliver. The French green leaf variety offers particularly plump, juicy stems and leaves, though any purslane is edible and delicious. Here's what makes purslane special beyond its toughness. It contains more omega-3 fatty acids than any other leafy green, making it genuinely good for your heart. The tangy, slightly lemony flavor works beautifully in salads, stir-fries, and even pickled. Purslane reseeds so reliably that many gardeners spend more time pulling it than growing it. Once you shift your perspective and start harvesting instead of weeding, you'll have an endless summer supply of this nutritious succulent. Stop fighting it and start eating it. The 11th plant that deserves far more attention is New Zealand spinach, sometimes called warrigal greens. Unlike true spinach that bolts and turns bitter in heat, this sprawling warm season green thrives when temperatures climb. Hardy as an annual in zones 4 through 10 and perennial where frost never hits. It laughs at drought and poor soil while producing thick, succulent leaves all summer long. The standard Tetragonia tetragonioid species needs no fancy cultivar. One plant can spread several feet in a single season, covering bare ground and suppressing weeds while feeding you continuously. The leaves have a mild spinach-like flavor and hold up well to cooking. In mild winter areas, New Zealand spinach self-seeds readily, returning on its own the following year. For gardeners who want summer greens without the struggle, this Australian native is the answer to bolting spinach. The 12th vegetable on our list is Daubenton's perennial kale, a remarkable plant that breaks all the rules of normal kale growing. Most kale is biennial, meaning it produces leaves the first year, flowers the second year, and then dies. Daubenton's kale simply never bolts. Hardy in zones 6 through 9. This long-lived perennial keeps producing tender shoots and leaves for years, sometimes even decades, from the same plant. The Daubenton variety is the one to seek out specifically for this trait. As the plant matures, it develops a shrubby form with multiple stems that you harvest by cutting and coming again. It roots easily from cuttings too, so one plant can become many with almost no effort. For gardeners tired of replanting kale every year, Daubenton's offers a permanent solution that just keeps giving. The 13th forgotten vegetable is the Welsh bunching onion, a perennial allium that provides scallions year after year without replanting. Despite the name, it likely originated in Asia and thrives in zones 6 through 9 with minimal attention. The evergreen hardy white variety lives up to its name, surviving cold winters and returning vigorously each spring. Unlike bulbing onions that you harvest once and start over, Welsh bunching onions form expanding clumps that you simply divide and thin as needed. Pull a few stalks for the kitchen, leave the rest to keep multiplying, and you'll never run out of fresh scallions. The hollow green tops and white shanks taste like any good green onion, perfect for salads, soups, and stir-fries. One initial planting creates a self-sustaining scallion patch that asks nothing of you except occasional harvesting. That's the kind of vegetable every lazy gardener needs. The 14th plant that deserves a comeback in modern gardens is Lovage, a towering perennial herb that tastes like celery, but grows with none of the fuss. Hardy in zones 4 through 8, common lovage sends up tall stalks of aromatic leaves every spring and can reach 6 feet or more by midsummer. The flavor is intensely celery-like, which means a few leaves add that familiar taste to soups, stews, and stocks, without the finicky growing requirements of actual celery. Once established, lovage returns reliably for years and often self-seeds around the garden, creating new plants without any effort on your part. The entire plant is usable, from the young leaves in spring to the stems and seeds later in the season. Give it a bit of moisture and partial shade, and lovage practically takes care of itself. For gardeners who love celery flavor but hate celery's demanding nature, this forgotten herb is a revelation. The 15th forgotten vegetable is sea kale, an old-fashioned European perennial that once graced Victorian kitchen gardens but has nearly vanished from modern plots. Hardy in zones 4 through 8, Crom maritima produces beautiful blue-green leaves and edible shoots that were traditionally blanched under pots for a tender, nutty delicacy. What makes sea kale perfect for neglectful gardeners is its tolerance of terrible conditions. This coastal native handles poor soil, salt spray, and drought without complaint, reappearing every spring from its deep roots. The young spring shoots taste somewhat like broccoli or asparagus and can be harvested for weeks before you let the plant grow out and recover. Sea kale takes a couple of years to establish fully, but once it settles in, you'll have decades of harvest from a single planting. It's a living piece of garden history that asks almost nothing in return. The 16th vegetable on our list is patience dock, also called herb patience or perennial spinach dock. This tough member of the sorrel family thrives in zones 5 through 9 and produces large, spinach-like leaves that keep coming even when you cut them back repeatedly throughout the season. The standard Rumex Pasienia strain handles conditions that would kill most greens, including rough ground, partial shade, and inconsistent watering. Young leaves are mild enough for salads, while larger leaves cook down nicely as a spinach substitute. The plant earned its common name because it asks you to be patient during establishment, but once its deep taproot takes hold, you'll harvest from the same clump for many years. Patience dock fills that difficult niche of a productive green that tolerates neglect and shade. For gardeners with challenging spots where nothing else thrives, this forgotten dock delivers. The 17th plant worth rediscovering is Caucasian spinach, botanically known as Hablitzia tamnoides, a climbing perennial that produces edible shoots and leaves every spring for decades. Hardy in zones 4 through 8, this unusual vine is native to the Caucasus Mountains and thrives in the kind of shady, woodland edge conditions where most vegetables fail completely. The common form needs no special cultivar selection. Each spring, tender shoots emerge that you can harvest like asparagus, followed by heart-shaped leaves that work beautifully in salads and cooked dishes. Give it something to climb, whether a trellis, fence, or shrub, and Caucasian spinach will scramble upward while quietly feeding you year after year. It's particularly valuable for gardeners with shady properties who struggle to grow productive food crops. Or, once established, this vigorous climber becomes a permanent fixture that never needs replanting. The 18th forgotten vegetable is skirret, a clump-forming perennial root crop that was common in medieval European gardens, but has nearly disappeared from cultivation. Hardy in zones 5 through 9, this member of the carrot family produces clusters of sweet white roots that taste like a cross between parsnip and carrot with hints of sweetness. The heirloom Siam cicerum needs no modern cultivar because the traditional form remains delicious and productive. Here's what makes skirret perfect for lazy gardeners. Once you establish a crown, you simply dig part of the clump each fall, enjoy those sweet roots, and leave the rest to regrow the following year. You can also divide established clumps to expand your patch without ever buying new plants. Skirret tolerates partial shade and moist soil, filling a niche where other root crops struggle. It's a self-perpetuating harvest that our ancestors relied on, but we've somehow forgotten. The 19th vegetable that belongs in your effortless garden is Chinese artichoke, a cold, hardy tuber crop from the mint family that produces strings of small, crunchy white roots. Hardy in zones 4 through 8, Stachypsophinis form spreading clumps that return year after year once established. The tubers look like ridged, spiral-shaped nuggets and have a crisp texture with a mild, slightly nutty flavor that works well raw in salads or lightly cooked. What makes Chinese artichoke ideal for lazy gardeners is its quiet persistence. Harvest what you want in fall or early spring, leave a few tubers behind, and the patch regenerates itself without any replanting. In fact, good luck getting rid of it once it takes hold, which is exactly what you want from a low-maintenance food crop. The plants stay compact and unobtrusive during summer, then reward you with buried treasure when you dig. It's the kind of vegetable that does all the work while you take the credit. The 20th plant on our list is American groundnut, a native vine that offers both edible beans and starchy tubers from the same plant. Hardy in zones 3 through 7, Apios americana grows wild along streams and woodland edges across eastern North America, where indigenous peoples cultivated it for centuries before European contact. The variety Silver Cloud and similar selections offer improved tuber size while keeping that wild toughness. This nitrogen-fixing vine climbs whatever support you provide, produces clusters of fragrant flowers, and develops strings of protein-rich tubers underground. Once established, it returns from its rhizomes every year and can even naturalize along fences or in moist corners of the yard. The tubers taste like a cross between potato and roasted peanut, especially delicious when roasted or fried. For gardeners who want a truly native, nearly wild food source that takes care of itself, American groundnut is waiting to be rediscovered. The 21st forgotten vegetable is Malabar spinach, a vigorous climbing green that thrives in exactly the hot, humid conditions that make regular spinach impossible. Grown as an annual in zones 4 through 9 and perennial, where frost never touches, this tropical vine produces thick, glossy leaves with a mild, slightly mucilaginous texture, perfect for soups and stir-fries. The red Malabar variety adds ornamental purple stems and is just as productive as the green type. Give it something to climb and consistent moisture, and Malabar spinach will scramble several meters in a single summer, pumping out harvestable leaves the entire time. In mild winter areas, it self-seeds readily, popping up on its own the following spring without any help. For gardeners in hot climates who've given up on leafy greens during summer, Malabar spinach changes everything. It actually wants the heat that kills everything else in your salad garden. The 22nd vegetable that deserves far more attention is Mache, also called corn salad or lamb's lettuce. This extremely cold, hardy salad green laughs at frost, snow, and freezing temperatures that would destroy any other lettuce. Hardy in zones 4 through 8, the Vit variety forms low rosettes of tender, buttery leaves that you can harvest throughout winter in many climates. Mache thrives in the cold months when your garden would otherwise sit empty and unproductive. What makes it perfect for lazy gardeners is its enthusiastic self-seeding habit. Let a few plants flower in spring, and you'll find a carpet of volunteer seedlings appearing the following fall without any effort on your part. Those seedlings grow slowly through winter, ready to harvest when you need fresh greens most. The delicate, nutty flavor pairs beautifully with simple vinaigrettes. For year-round salad harvests with almost no work, Mache fills the cold season gap that most gardeners simply accept as inevitable. The 23rd plant worth growing is Orach, an ancient spinach alternative that handles heat, poor soil, and neglect with ease. Hardy in zones 5 through 9, this tall, striking plant comes in green, gold, and red varieties, with red Orach being particularly beautiful in the garden. Unlike spinach that bolts at the first hint of warm weather, Orach keeps producing edible leaves well into summer while adding dramatic color to your vegetable beds. The mild spinach-like flavor works equally well raw or cooked. Orach self-seeds with enthusiasm, often appearing in unexpected corners of the garden the following year, without any help from you. Some gardeners consider this weedy behavior a nuisance, but lazy gardeners recognize it as free food that plants itself. The plants can reach 4 feet or more, creating an impressive backdrop while supplying a continuous harvest. Once you let Orach into your garden, it tends to stick around for good. The 24th forgotten vegetable is the ground cherry, a charming tomato relative that drops its own seeds and often returns without any replanting. Hardy as a warm season annual in zones 4 through 8, Physalis pruinosa produces small golden fruits wrapped in papery husks that taste like a tropical blend of pineapple, vanilla, and tomato. The variety Aunt Mollie's is a beloved heirloom known for exceptional sweetness and heavy yields. Ground cherries grow as sprawling bushes that need little attention beyond occasional watering during dry spells. Here's what makes them perfect for lazy gardeners. As the fruits ripen, they fall to the ground, still wrapped in their protective husks, where they can sit for weeks waiting for you to collect them. Many of those dropped fruits contain seeds that overwinter in the soil and sprout as volunteers the following spring. One intentional planting often leads to years of self-sown harvests appearing exactly where you grew them before. It's the fruit that keeps on giving. The 25th vegetable on our list is black salsify, also called scorzonera, a long-lived root crop that quietly thickens underground while asking almost nothing from you. Hardy in zones 5 through 9, this patient plant produces dark-skinned roots with creamy white flesh that tastes faintly of oysters when cooked, earning it the nickname vegetable oyster. The Black Knight variety and similar selections offer good root size and flavor. Unlike carrots or parsnips that you grow fresh each year, scorzonera can stay in the ground for multiple seasons, developing larger roots the longer you leave it alone. The plant tolerates poor, dry soils where fussier root crops would fail entirely. Simply dig what you need during fall or winter, leaving the rest to keep growing. Scorzonera also self-seeds if you let a plant or two flower, creating new plants without any effort. For gardeners who want a truly low-maintenance root vegetable, this forgotten crop delivers year after year. The 26th forgotten vegetable is yacon, a South American sunflower relative that produces clusters of sweet, crisp tubers unlike anything else in the garden. Hardy in zones 5 through 9, this impressive plant sends up tall stalks with large leaves and eventually forms a mass of juicy roots that taste like a cross between apple, watermelon, and pear. The Inca Red variety offers particularly sweet tubers with a hint of molasses flavor. Yacon stores its sweetness as inulin rather than starch, making it a rare treat for anyone watching their blood sugar. The tubers are delicious raw, sliced into salads or eaten like fruit straight from the ground. In mild climates where the soil doesn't freeze deeply, yacon can regrow from small crown pieces left behind at harvest, returning on its own each spring. Even where winters are harsh, saving a few crowns indoors for replanting takes minimal effort. This sweet surprise from the Andes deserves a spot in every adventurous gardener's plot. The 27th plant that earns its place in the lazy garden is the tomatillo, a sprawling tomato cousin that produces heavily with minimal fuss. Hardy as a warm season annual in zones 4 through 9, tomatillos bear abundant husked fruits perfect for salsa verde, sauces, and roasting. The Toma Verde variety is a reliable producer with classic tangy green fruits, though purple varieties add visual interest. Tomatillos grow vigorously when summer heat arrives, sprawling across beds or climbing short supports while setting fruit continuously until frost. What makes them ideal for effortless gardening is their tendency to drop ripe fruits that overwinter in the soil. The following spring, volunteer seedlings often appear right where last year's plants grew, giving you a new crop without any replanting. You do need at least 2 plants for cross-pollination, but after that initial planting, tomatillos often take care of themselves. For gardeners who love Mexican cuisine, this self-perpetuating crop is pure gold. The 28th forgotten vegetable is Mache, an Andean climbing tuber that produces spicy, colorful roots along with edible flowers and leaves. Hardy in zones 7 through 9, this vigorous nasturtium relative scrambles up supports and creates an attractive screen while quietly forming tubers underground. The Canaslet variety is particularly cold tolerant and produces good yields of yellowish tubers with a peppery mustard-like kick. The tubers mellow significantly when cooked, becoming starchy and pleasant. In mild winter gardens where the ground doesn't freeze solid, Mache can overwinter and re-sprout the following year without any intervention. Even in colder areas, saving a few tubers indoors for spring replanting requires little effort compared to most crops. The bright orange flowers are edible too, adding color to salads throughout summer. Mache fills a unique niche for gardeners in mild climates who want an unusual, nearly self-maintaining tuber crop that doubles as an ornamental vine. The 29th vegetable on our list is oyster leaf, a low-growing coastal perennial with leaves that genuinely taste like fresh oysters from the sea. Hardy in zones 3 through 7, Mertensia maritima forms spreading mats of fleshy blue-green foliage that thrive in the sandy, poor soils where most vegetables would starve. This unusual plant needs no cultivar selection because the wild species delivers that remarkable briny, oyster-like flavor all on its own. The taste is so convincing that chefs prize oyster leaf as a garnish for seafood dishes, adding ocean flavor without any actual shellfish. Once established, oyster leaf slowly expands into self-maintaining clumps that return year after year with minimal attention. It prefers cool conditions and good drainage, making it ideal for rock gardens or raised beds with gritty soil. For gardeners near the coast or anyone with sandy ground they've written off as unproductive, oyster leaf transforms a challenging spot into something genuinely special. It's a conversation starter that also happens to taste incredible. The 30th and final forgotten vegetable is one use tip that experienced gardeners swear by. When you're establishing any of these self-seeding or spreading vegetables, resist the urge to tidy up in fall. Those dead stalks, dropped seeds, and messy patches you want to clear away are actually next year's garden planning itself. The seeds need that protective layer of debris to overwinter successfully, and many require the freeze and thaw cycles of winter to break dormancy and germinate in spring. If you rake everything clean, bag it up and haul it away, you're removing the very seeds that would have given you free plants. Instead, leave dedicated areas a little wild through winter, then watch in spring as volunteers appear exactly where you wanted them. This simple shift from tidy gardener to strategic observer is what separates those who replant every year from those whose gardens regenerate themselves. Let nature do the work, and your lazy garden becomes a self-sustaining food system. Thanks for sticking with me through the entire video. If you found this helpful, give it a like, subscribe for more gardening tips, and check out our other videos on growing a better garden.